Hi, this is Dr. Scott Young, and today is Good Friday, April 7th, 2023. And today we're going to talk about the EBS and Trump. We're going to talk about the Trump indictments. So I know this is going to sound a little crazy because aren't you going to talk about NESARA stuff? Well, realize the NESARA stuff can't happen until Trump is back in office. So we've got to focus. We've got to focus a little bit upon the Trump indictments kind of things. Those are some of the markers, and we'll talk about what that means here in a second. First off, we got to talk a little bit about the 34 indictments, and this very, very important that happens. So let's go backward a little bit through some of the time frame, through a little February and March. So we've got this dummy who, a DA who in New York makes his bones by coming up with an idea that he's going to get Trump. Okay, and fine, someone wants to get a guy, and we've got a lot of issues with this guy. Everything that he's done, he's made his bones upon getting a guy, and he's going to do this every step of the way. He wants to get him, and frankly, there's a lot of DAs over the years who've made their bones upon getting a guy. There are DAs who went after Capone, and this is a situation that does happen, and yet sometimes they do it in to the problem of their city, and they skip over other people who they really need to go after, and that does happen. But in this case, we've got a real big problem because there aren't things that are wrong. Many of the other DAs, the district attorneys around the areas, and even other lawyers are going, stay away from this case because it doesn't have any real teeth. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. So let's go through some of the indictments. So I'm going to kind of pull back on this a hair. So I've got to kind of minimize me a hair, and we'll look at the indictments. So we're going to see this. Now, you might not be able to see this perfectly, so we're going to just kind of go through this just a little bit. And again, I'm not a lawyer, and I don't play one on TV, so we'll kind of open this up just a little bit so you can see it on the screen. So I know it's not perfect there, but we're going to kind of get the idea. So there's 34 indictments, and one of the things that I've heard by many people who talk about the indictments is that each of the indictments, they're like they're repeating indictments. What he's talking about when they go through the indictments is they're talking about election points that from 2016. Now, normally, and again, you can listen to. Sorry, allergies are just horrible around this area. When you listen to people, normally when you're talking about election issues or you're talking about defrauding, the governmental issues, you're talking about booking monies that would happen in the past. So if you're talking about the election of 2016, that would be in November of 16, you would book monies that would happen in the past for a election in 2016. So if it would make more sense if you're bringing up those events in 2014 and 2015. All of these events, you'll see them. Here's one on February 14th. We've got another one on February 14th. We've got another one 14th, and they're repeating these events. March, we've got another one on March. We've got another one on March, April, June. I mean, they're over and over again. Now, that's one of the events, and then they bring up a couple other points here. They say that Trump actually paid Michael Cohen, his lawyer, to pay money to Stormy Daniels. Let's go through that issue as well. So when we see Michael Cohen, well, he's actually a liar, and which if the lawyer for Trump would bring this guy up, boy, they would eviscerate this dude. So you bring up Michael Cohen, and Michael Cohen doesn't have a leg to stand on in this one. So what you would find in here is that Michael Cohen actually was convicted on other issues. And so Michael Cohen actually paid out monies from his own amount. And they say that Michael Cohen actually paid $130,000 to him, but there's no evidence of that. And actually, there's more evidence that Michael Cohen paid out some amount to Stormy Daniels from some other amount of money. But you know what? The amount of money, and here's where it comes from. This is where it comes from Trump. So it's a little hard to see. Let's see if I can open that up for you a hair. So we're going to show you this one here. And this is where Trump shows out in 2018. So shows a letter. I'm writing on behalf of my client, Michael Cohen. So this is in response to your letter in 2018, a private transaction, $130,000. Michael Cohen used his own personal funds of paying $130,000 to my client, Stephanie Clifford, blah, 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 blah. It's not from the Trump organization. Alleges a speculation neither Cohen or these consultants, these are any kind of contributions to the president or any of the other presidential committee. And so basically saying, listen, he didn't get anything from any of those areas. So now he's basically saying this is the evidence, the exculpatory evidence that they're looking at and going, and listen, again, I'm not a lawyer. I had to put this in evidence, and it blows up parts of the case of Alvin Bragg. Let's go even further. You got Stormy Daniels, and here's the powerful point. On the same day that Trump is arraigned in court. Now, this is a powerful piece of evidence. You don't realize that the white hats are playing with these idiots. The same exact day that Trump is actually being indicted, Stormy Daniels is ordered to pay another $120,000 in legal fees against him. And then we see, we absolutely on the same day, she's got to pay another $120,000 of fees against him. And this just goes nutty. Now I'm going to see if I can pull this other thing up here. I'm trying to find this piece of data here. So I know this is a little bit annoying here when we try to pull up this information here. Trying to bring this up here. I know this is annoying. I wanted to bring this up here for you. But there is a letter, and I'm trying to find it here, so I apologize if I didn't have it perfectly brought out here. There's a letter from Stormy Daniels that actually intimates that Stormy actually never had any relationship with him. And it's so powerful that she actually says it about herself, that she never did anything with him. So she doesn't have any leg to stand on here. Here's this letter here. You got to see this letter. It's so powerful here. Let me see if I can open this up a little bit more here for you. This is her own letter and her own intimation here. So you're going to see this Jack Prososic, I can't say his name. So Jack Proso signed off official statement from Stormy Daniels, admits an affair never happened. So there's no hush money issue going on in here. And she says in January of 2018, over the past few weeks, I've been asked countless times to comment on a report of alleged sexual relationships I had with Donald Trump many, 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 many years ago, which I don't know why she says it that many times. As a matter of fact, it is each party has alleged an affair denied its existence in 2006. She spells it wrong. 2011, 2016. So she doesn't even spell check her own stuff. 2017, and now again in 2018. I'm not denying this affair. Because I was paid hush money, as it has been reported overseas. I'm denying this affair because it never happened. That's going to be exculpatory evidence. I have no further comment as to this matter. Please feel free to check me out this on Instagram at Stormy Daniels, and she signs Stormy Daniels. Again, this is around this. I mean, this is a little letter that was popped out here a couple days ago. A friend of mine just popped me out on this kind of information. We have the same things. These are damning pieces of information. And you guys, you see this kind of stuff the little porn star puts out this kind of stuff. So you got all this supposed evidence against them. And where does this lead us when we see this supposed pieces of information that keeps coming out about this? I'm going to pull out some other area here that you're going to want to see here too. There is a video about President Trump and ambulances. We're going to show you let's see here. I'm going to show you a video. Sorry about that. Someone was messing my computer here, and we had some problems with the computer last night. So as some other people know, when you get computer problems, you get everything kind of messing up here. So I'm going to see if I can try to bring it back here. Yeah, I lost it here. So basically, one of the things that happens, there's a real great piece of information that they trail along behind Trump in the same time frame of this arrest, and there is a ambulance that trails along behind Trump, and ambulances don't trail along behind a motorcade behind a former president. Only current presidents. And there are many ones that you can go to my Telegram channel that we have tons of evidences that they say the former and current president. Why would they say former or current president? It's giving you clues to this. Now, when we go back to the indictments of 34 separate counts, so I'm going to show you when we come down to the last, with 25th, and we show 29th, the 32nd, and we have the 34th count, and that comes to the end. Okay, so we have 34 separate accounts. These 34 counts, and you go, well, that should be pretty damning. These 34 accounts are misdemeanors. The misdemeanors only have a 2-year time span. You're way past that time span. You can't actually add them up. It's not 34 misdemeanors that could add up to felonies. 34 misdemeanors are still 34 misdemeanors, and you can only do them over a time-locked period of time, which is 2 years. We're way past that time frame. That's 7 years ago. Or 6 years ago, you don't get to utilize them, and you're way past the statute of limitation. Again, non-lawyer blows up their case without even being a lawyer. And there's a ton of other lawyers that can line up and just blow their case up. Did you know that there is actually a blue out by many of the other of the police in the New York area that didn't even want to show up in the area? They spent hundreds of thousands, maybe even into the millions of dollars, who didn't even want to show up in the New York area. So just to prosecute a man who was completely innocent. There's another video, and again, I don't have this, but I have it in other areas, that Alvin Bragg might have been driven away in a little wagon where he's going into U.S. Marshal custody. See, this opens up something actually really interesting. Now, I want to show you something that behind the scenes. See, this is what concerns people. But I want to give you a reason why this actually helps us. So the 17th letter actually gives us a clue. And let me open that up because it's a little hard for you to see it. So do you see that a little better there? Hope you can see it better. On December 17th, 2019, we have the 17th letter saying 3717, and we have the first indictment unseal. So we have an unsealing. Well, why was it? It was sealed up until this time frame. Well, that's real interesting because we didn't know what was sealed. Will trigger a mass population awakening. Now, if you know a little bit about this, it's messing the people up. There are so many people who are awakening to this thing. Now, it's a period, which means a new piece of information, a first arrest. Now, first indictment is that that's not Trump in this way. A first arrest will verify action and confirm future direction. You see, some people want to look at this as a Podesta conversation. Again, we'll deal with that here in just a second. They will fight, but you are ready. Well, guess why? Because most of us are very, very awake. Marker. What that is it's not a trigger, but an action. A marker is something that militaries look at and they say, okay, we know that is not necessarily a trigger, but it is another way of saying this. And I look at this. This is the Scott way of looking at this. Is I want you to think about D-Day of 1944. So we've got D-Day wasn't just June 6, 1944. The beach landings at around 8 a.m. of that time frame. It would have been happening on June 4th. See, they would have flown out with the parachute landings or the parachute drops the night of the 4th. So it would have been a couple days earlier because they would have started to fly off that morning or the early at night. They would have dropped them the day before. They would have gotten in hours on the hours before. So you as they're going through on the 5th of June, and then the guys are on the boats on the 5th of June, and then on the 6th of June, then they would have landed. But there were also events that happened. So there's also layers to a landing. And these are also calculated events. And so there's points to this. And see, so we want to have, well, what happens next? We're always looking for the EBS. And I go, guys, there are trigger points to this, and there are markers to this. The next marker happens. So we have to have, the air bombings that occur, and we have to have, the naval bombings, and there's all kinds of different things that come into this. And this one is that marker thing, and that is one of the things that we see from a financial standpoint. It's actually released some of the funds. Okay, now let's go over to another point, and let's show you another piece of the evidence. One of the earliest statements that we see in the 17th letter on the drop at the number 34. Now remember, Trump had 34 indictments against him, and we talked about this, the first indictment, the unsealed 34 indictment, and we see drop 34. And we see this really interesting thing. And many of us saw this. So my fellow Americans, over the course of the next several days, you will undoubtedly realize that we're taking back our great country, the land of the free, from the evil tyrants that wish to do us harm and destroy the last remaining refuge of shining light, our POTUS, on POTUS's order. we have initiated certain fail-safes that safeguard the public from the primary fallout, which is slated to occur 11/3. Now, many of us thought that 11/3 was, that right before the 2020 election. Well, that's not exactly what we thought it was. 11/3 is the law of war manual. Upon the arrest announcement of Mr. Podesta, the actionable 11/4. Again, that's the next phase of the law of war manual. Confirmation to the public of what is occurring will then be revealed and will openly accepted. Public riots are being organized in serious numbers in an effort to prevent the arrest and capture of more senior public officials. Well, what would that be? It's the Antifa. It's the idiots getting together and trying to do this. So what happens is that's why we see this mollification of them. That's why we see the idiot Biden going out and doing this stuff. And so they're mollifying them left and right. On POTUS's order, a state of a temporary military control. You see, think about this in essence. Why didn't Biden have to be in control? It mollifies the morons. It mollifies more and more of the morons because they can't go out there and do this. If Trump was really in action through this last few years, we would have seen more and more of the morons really taking over and doing their little thing. They're stupid. But we see less and less of them because Trump is no longer in charge, okay? And from their viewpoint. So a temporary state of military control will be actioned and special ops carried out. Well, that's what we're actually living through, okay? That's what we've been living through over from 2020, 2021, 2022, and into 2023. False leaks have been made to retain several within the confines of the United States to prevent extradition and special operator necessity. Okay, what are false leaks? I want to talk about that a little bit more. Sometimes false leaks are, what false leaks really are, is levels of misinformation which comes from the deep state. Sometimes false leaks are disinformation, which sometimes comes even to truthers, okay? And this is difficult. So sometimes, and I was talking to my son about the same thing. And so sometimes people listen to truthers, smaller truthers like me and bigger truthers, and they listen to the bigger truthers and they get really they listen to us and they go, you know what? I don't know what to believe of you. I don't know what I feel about you because you've said something and it hasn't come true yet. And I go, do you understand that these false leaks have been there to confine the morons? And it's not you and I. It's to confine and to confound these morons here and to keep those things in place so the special operations can be carried out. The false leaks have been made to retain them. So rest assured the safety and well-being of every man, woman, and child in the country is being exhausted in full. They're trying to do this to protect us with that. However, an atmosphere within the country will unfortunately be divided so that many of us have fallen to the corrupt and evil narrative that has been long broadcasted. You guys realize what they're talking about is MSM. We see people have fallen toward that narrative, and that's the sickness. That's why we have to have an EBS so that we can break the narrative. This is what this is about. This is breaking the narrative. This is why this such is a powerful this is a powerful drop here. Okay? So this is why this is an EBS. This is why we have to do this thing. Okay? Okay. However, the atmosphere within the country will be unfortunately be divided so that many of the fallen for the corrupt and evil narrative that has long been broadcasted. We will be initiating the emergency broadcast system, which is why I call it EBS. Now he puts it in parentheses, the EMS, the emergency message system, during this time in an effort to provide a direct message, the messaging system. See, I know people don't like it when I say emergency broadcast system. What that is from Kennedy's time frame. So they're referencing back an old time frame. It's transmitted to today so that we can use emergency messaging things, so that we can use tablets and cell phones and things like that stuff. Oops, sorry. So we can use these other kinds of sources to provide direct messages, avoiding the fake news to all the citizens. Now realize this was done in 2017. Organizations and or people that wish to do us harm during this time will be met with swift fury. So we've got a level of control over some of that. So that's not really saying it's going to be martial law, but some level of that. Okay. Certain laws have been pre-lifted to provide our great military, the necessary authority to handle and conduct these operations at home and abroad. This is such a powerful one. You guys can read this one over and over again. Now, why does this kind of stuff happen? These are the backdrop points that have to occur here, guys. We have to have, these aren't necessarily, I wouldn't call this a trigger. I wouldn't call the Alvin Bragg thing a trigger. I would call it a marker event. Okay, we're still waiting for that. We're on Good Friday. I think we're really super close. We're waiting for that event, and they're never going to tell you the exact thing. But the sham nature of this person, and the sham nature of this guy who is a complete moron in this thing, and trying to tell you that this unsealment of an indictment that they've known for a very long time, that leads to an EBS. See, those indictment that leads to this gives you that hope. These are the things. By the way, this is where we get this. This is why I get the hope that I have. This is why I'm not frustrated. I trust me, I hate where we are. Frustrated is not the right word. This is why I don't have a lack of faith. Sometimes my hope is assailed by the slings and arrows, as Shakespeare would say. But what I do is I place a shield of faith. There's a word in Scripture, it's called a stasis, and it's called anastasis. And it's what we do is like a shield. And that's what faith is. It is a shield that we place around our hope. And we need to put our faith, and we place the hope inside of it so that we can protect ourselves with that. That's what we do correctly with it. But what this indictment, when we go back to this little thing here, this indictment on Trump, so let me back up here so you can kind of see it. This indictment on Trump, what it does is it puts a bullseye on every current and future president. Who's the current and future president? Oh, yeah, baby. The little boy who's supposedly in the White House. And all the little boys who think that they're in the White House. But it also puts the bullseye on everyone who's in their office. That puts on every... Why are you seeing on YouTube channels and on Rumble channels school boards, city councils, mayors, state assemblies? You're seeing this in Tennessee. By the way, in Tennessee right now, they're voting on, and three city council, state senators are just kicked out because they're unruly. They're not following the laws. You're going to see this with governors. DeSantis, You're going to see about him. You're seeing these people who were, who you think were good, but they're more deep state than you realize. That you're going to see some of these people that you liked, but you're not realizing who they really are. And as we go further in that, I want you to step back from those people. So this EBS is going to shed light on all this stuff, and it's going to wipe all of that stuff out. And that leads us to the economic points of the NESARA stuff. And by the way, NESARA is the glue of all this stuff. It's all of dealing with the gross things that we have to deal with, the MSM. It's not just the financial piece. It's all the government stuff. It's all the MSM stuff. It's all of the schooling stuff. It's all the financial privacy points. It's all of that stuff. It's the quantum financial system. It's the gold-backed currency. It's all of those things. And all of that stuff is listed inside of the 17th letter conversations. And it says, gold will destroy the Fed. That's an invert relationship or inverted relationship conversation of, guess what? The Fed's got to go. And the only way you deal with the Fed when you kill off the Fed is through the quantum financial system. And this is not trying to be a one world government. This is not trying to be the mark of the beast kind of thing. It is a decentralized kind of thing. So we're going to see this kind of thing coming in to restore your financial privacy, to knock off all the debts, and to bring us back into a gold-backed currency. It's already there. It's already set up there. But we need to have the marker events. And I believe that indictment thing is a marker event, but not necessarily a trigger, but a marker event that the military would look at and say, that's what we were looking for, the next event. And so, in essence, you would have in an invasion event, you want to have different events that come on. So, for instance, if you didn't land your airborne, they couldn't support the landings on the beaches. And if they don't do that, they can't do their part of the job. If the Navy doesn't fire on the beachheads, the Marines don't get on the beaches effectively. And that's why each one has their job. And you guys have your job too. Your job is to spread the information. Do you know, I sat with a guy this morning and I spent 3 hours with him. It's an old friend of mine named Skip. And I just sat with him and for 3 hours, and I was just sharing with him much of this information. Now, he's a very strong believer in Christ, but he didn't know all this stuff. And he was like, wow, I hadn't thought about this. I hadn't thought about this. You could do that as well. You think, well, Scott, you got 49,000 people on your YouTube channel, and you got 18,000 on this, but I was doing a one-on-one. That's what you guys can do. Many of you guys are frustrated and you don't know what you can accomplish. I've got a whiteboard over there that I put on the things that I want to do. And I told you this is what you could do in this fallow time before NESARA comes up. Why are you here in that place? You could go off to Mardell's or any one of these places. You could buy a whiteboard and you could buy a dry erase marker. Plenty of these little cheap markers. You could spend $30 of stuff and easy whiteboards and start drawing and dreaming of things that you would want to accomplish, things that you want to be able to do. What about if God's telling you, man, I just want to do a food truck? What would it take to do a food truck in the post-NESARA time frame? What if God wants you to be a missionary? I'm thinking of Seal as a friend of mine who's now, she just jumped out there anyway. She was really hoping for some monies from humanitarian monies, but you know what? She just said, no, I'm just going to be a missionary. I think it's in Brazil. I, People are doing that kind of thing. But some of you guys are just stuck because you're waiting for these kinds of events to happen. And I'm going, no, you need to be planning some of this stuff. And when you're planning some of that stuff, it prepares you for that time frame. Instead of being frustrated, I get up in the morning and plan for this stuff. And that protects my hope. And that builds my faith with that. I hope that helps you guys, because that's really what we need to be doing. That is productiveness with that. So hope that helps you out. If you like what we do, subscribe. Leave questions on there. I'm happy to talk about that with you. Thanks so much.